Hey friends, it's Brian here, better known as @KindaSpoony. For those who don't know me yet, I want to share a bit of my crazy journey with you. It's a story that goes from the Marine Corps to cloud computing with a few twists in between, including wrestling with a rare disorder that you've probably never heard of. So grab a seat and let's dive in. I grew up in a military family, moving around a lot. New school every year kind of deal. So by the time I hit my 20s, I figured why not add some more structure, and I joined the Marine Corps. Semper Fi. Taught me more about life and myself than I ever expected. And the Marines have this saying, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And boy, did I live by that motto every single day. During my service, I was that guy who always volunteered for the hard stuff. That's what I loved. I loved the challenge and the camaraderie. But here's something that you wouldn't know by looking at me. Even as I was thriving in the Marines, I was secretly fighting an invisible battle with my own body. I'd come back from unit PT or intense training evolutions with joints that felt like they were on fire. My knees, shoulders, back, it was like my body was twice my age. I chalked it up to the usual suck it up Marine mentality and kept pushing. I really didn't know the rest of the world was not in pain like me. That pain wasn't normal. I wouldn't find that out until years later. Fast forward to civilian life, and I traded my camouflage uniform for a bright orange safety vest and became an engineer at a nuclear waste treatment plant. Yeah, you heard that right. I was part of a team out in Washington State starting up this massive facility to turn nuclear waste into glass, to keep it safe. No pressure, right? Honestly, it was an incredible job. I got to apply that Marine Corps work ethic to protecting the environment, and it really fed my need to give back even after serving. Here's a cool fact. In 2021, our team, including yours truly, completed a huge test of the plant systems, a key startup towards cleaning up millions of gallons of waste. We even got a shout out in a Department of Energy newsletter. My name's in there as one of the engineers. Pretty neat moment for a kid who barely knew what startup engineer was a few years prior. But you felt the butt coming, right? While I was busy making sure nuclear melters didn't melt down, my own body was still melting me down. The same pain from my Marine days kept getting worse. I'd finish a day of climbing ladders and checking valves at the plant and then basically crawl to my car. It wasn't sustainable. Eventually I said enough. I needed answers. Why was a 30-something-year-old feeling like a broken action figure every night? Into the plot twist. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS for short. Specifically, the hypermobile type, which in plain English means my connective tissue is like overcooked spaghetti. It's a genetic thing. I was born this way, as Lady Gaga would say, but I had no clue until my 30s. Quick science break. EDS is a rare connective tissue disorder. Basically, the stuff that holds your joints together is weak. So we zebras, that's our mascot, end up with unstable joints, crazy flexibility, and a lot of pain and fatigue. It's underdiagnosed, especially in men, because doctors don't expect a tall, fit dude to come in saying, hey, my shoulder pops out when I sleep. Surprise, it happens. And it was happening to me. In hindsight, the Marine Corps, and then that intense construction job, were like pouring gasoline on a fire I didn't know I had. My body was breaking down connective tissue faster than I could repair it. At least now I finally had a name for the enemy. Getting that diagnosis was a relief. I wasn't crazy or weak. There was a real reason for all of this, but it was also scary. EDS doesn't go away. You just learn to live with it. For me, living with it meant major life changes. I had to leave that dream job at the nuclear plant. I needed something less physical, more flexible. So I pivoted again to career 2.0 or maybe 3.0 into tech. I threw myself into supporting cloud computing. Picture me icing my knees and studying AWS data center schematics at the same time. Fun times. But guess what? It did pay off. Because of AWS, when the inevitable crash occurred, I had access to the top doctors in the world for EDS and POTS. Using my brain a lot more than my brawn, I was able to advocate for myself, and I've been having surgeries to make the best out of what's left, as one of my surgeons put it. My Marine Corps discipline made self-learning easier, and my engineering background gave me an edge when it was time for me to get healthcare. Who knew that those nuclear control systems would have parallels with nervous systems? Different kind of systems engineering entirely, but around this time, I also started speaking up about my health. Because it wasn't just enough to manage EDS, I felt this drive to help others who might be in the same boat. I've been a decade not knowing what was wrong with me. If I can shorten that journey for someone else, heck yes, I'm going to try it. So I became KindaSpoony. And if you're wondering what's with the spoon thing, quick explainer. Spoon theory is this idea that people with chronic illness start each day with limited energy or spoons, and everything you do costs a spoon. By evening, you're out of spoons. So we call ourselves spoonies. And me, I guess I'm only kind of a spoonie because I push myself a bit too hard sometimes. I hopped on TikTok to update folks on my health and my fight with the VA. Oh yeah, did I mention that I had to arm wrestle the Veterans Administration to recognize my EDS as service connected? It's a whole saga. They heard genetic condition and were like, nope, not our problem. I was like, hold on. I was fine before the Marines. Now I'm a medical mess. You do the math. It took years of appeals, medical evidence, and a lot of persistence, but the VA is starting to listen to me, and I'm hoping that they'll acknowledge that my military service made my congenital condition a lot worse. EDS might be in my DNA, but the Marines put it into overdrive. I'm hoping that my victory against the VA will be huge. Not just for me, but hopefully for other veterans who have conditions that aren't a neat fit in the rule book. What I didn't expect was how many people would care about my stories. I'm just being honest on social media as a form of catharsis. These days, as kind of I keep it real. Some days I'm sharing medical facts like actual research because info should be legit. Other days I'm just telling a story from my life, like how I injured my floating ribs foam rolling. Yes, that really did happen. Thanks, EDS. Or I'll talk about my mental health. I'm not shy to say that I've dealt with PTSD and depression, and I even have been in therapy through all this. And it's helped for the last 3 years. And guess what? People seem to appreciate that balance of raw honesty and credible info. I've had doctors comment that they share my videos with patients, taught to med students, wild, right? And I've had young folks with HEDS say that my content helped them explain their condition to their own family or boss. And that makes it all worth it to me. And I've even had young people with EDS say my content's helped them explain their condition to like their family or boss or whatever. And that makes it all worth it. Now, I'm gearing up for a new series, both here and on a few other social media platforms. I'm going to continue speaking out about my day-to-day life and see where that takes me. I want to shine a light on the folks who've been my support because I didn't get here alone. And I want you all to meet them. I may call it something like Brian's Heroes. Title is still being workshopped. But through these stories, you'll see even more of what it takes to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Not just from my perspective, but from the village that raised me. So that's my introduction. Marine Corps veteran, engineer, AWS techie, chronic illness warrior, lifelong learner. My life has been all about adapting to new realities, sometimes by choice and sometimes by force, and sharing what I learned to help others adapt. If you stick around, I promise you'll get a bit of inspiration, some useful knowledge, and probably a cheesy joke or two, because I can't help myself. Thank you for listening to my story. Stay tuned for the upcoming series, and in the meantime, remember, whatever challenges you're facing, you can adapt and overcome, and you don't have to do it alone. Semper Fi, and I'll see you next time.